Tell me, for marketing especially, what is the most exorbitant number that you've seen somebody ask and somebody get?
Somebody with a little less than 10 years experience sitting around at 50 cash asking for a 100% hike.
There are a lot of leaders today who are unhireable because the last few years have shaped their expectations as such that companies can't afford them.
I can confidently tell you I'll still place a 1.25 CR marketing head 3 years down the line.
But then 1.25 CR also becomes as good as 90 lakhs today, no? Devesh, you've been a recruiter for a while. You've placed some of the biggest talent in the Indian startup ecosystem. Tell me, for marketing especially, what is the most exorbitant number that you've seen somebody ask and somebody get?
So the most crazy thing I have seen, somebody with a little less than 10 years experience sitting around at 50 cash asking for a 100% hike. Plus a very kind of, I would say, innocent statement to say considerable equity over and above this, which of course never went through. The other I've seen is somebody really being part of early stage of, now the unicorns of the world, proving that impact bit and then sitting somewhere around 80 plus and asking for 1.25 and still getting it.
That's 50%.
Not really 50.
80 to 1.25
Yeah,
is.
so roughly around with, fixed variable kind of included and plus, decent equity. So yeah, these are two scenarios in my case.
What is the most exorbitant or highest but acceptable salary figure that a marketer is getting in the ecosystem as per you? You could give me a range that you've seen around. Maybe you've not pursued them.
Roughly, if you have 10 years experience being part of 1 to startup scale journeys, I think you would be sitting somewhere around near about 50 to 60 on a cash component plus the equity. I think on top of it, you can easily ask another 25-30% hike, which is acceptable. I think at a leadership is what I would say, which kind of makes sense.
So going from 60 to 80.
80, 85, you can still ask, provided your scale journey, your impact journey, whether you're able to talk numbers, etc. also matters. But yes.
What about you, Srini? Have you seen something like that?
So these are the guys who are underpaid, honestly, for the amount of work that they do. And a lot of companies sort of get whatever 10x of ROI from these from them. So they are the ones who ask for the biggest jump.
How many numbers?
Someone who's earning, let's say 13, 14 will suddenly ask for 27, 28. Someone who's earning 18 will suddenly ask for 32, 34.
Do these go through?
They typically don't. But the point is, and usually they're stuck in that number because they've probably hung around in a company for too long. Usually maybe part of the founding team or something like that, but not senior, junior. And they find it hard to sort of justify that jump, and they want to do it in one shot. Ideally, they should be doing it in maybe 2 steps or 3 steps, but they just want to do it in one shot.
And many a times, startups pay better than Microsoft and all these big companies, MNCs, and that's obviously happening because of VC funding. If you're able to pay better than Microsoft and an Amazon, which a lot of startups are able to, and that's why they're able to poach talent out of Amazon and Microsoft, do you think startup salaries are inflated?
I wouldn't say inflated. I think the higher the risk, higher the reward is. It's that classic theory. Because you're leaving a cushioned, proven business model, established organization, good cash flow, money in the bank to move into something, where someone else's vision you're trying to, build on it, prove yourself. I think that risk you take. So you are paid for that compared to, anything else. Now, whether that will work or no means, depends on a lot of factors. Just saying, okay, I have a vision, your execution matters a lot, right hires matters a lot. Means somebody could, seems to be the right hire at a certain stage, but did you evolve, in your hiring as you went through? Because what would work in your 0 to 5 journey might not be the right person, when you do that 5 to 50 journey, right? So are you evolving on that perspective and all?
I had a friend, like, the performance pressure is so high. Like, if you don't perform in those 6-8 months, they'll throw you out. They'll be like, you're not justifying the salary. And the startups end up putting a lot of pressure because of how much they're paying you.
Because of 2020 and 2021, I think I read a Ken article or a Morning Context article that said that, hey, there are a lot of leaders today, in 2022, this happened. There are a lot of leaders today who are unhireable because the last few years have shaped their expectations as such that companies can't afford them. And these guys are also happy. I mean, they're happy not taking a job and wait it out for a year or year and a half. Did that also happen?
Yes. And a lot of people turned into the fractional side of things, becoming because
You can become a fractional marketer, but for other roles it can't happen. You can't become a fractional salesperson, or can you?
there are sales consultant as well who would come on board, guide the AEs, SDRs teams. They're not like full-time folks, but they are kind of coaching them, guiding them, and spending like a definite hours per week. But it is more on the marketing side, the fractional bit which we have seen, because like Srini said, right, you can get an expert in digital side, content side, and along with the founders, that person can kind of come more like an advisor to give that nitty gritties which you need from a marketing lens per se. But otherwise, it's more around talking about your story, going through that. It's like an art and science where the founder is able to play that role as well.
And they do to a large extent because over the years, what I've seen is that the in-house marketing team has become an internal agency.
Yeah, it's essentially that.
Because
Yeah.
the strategic part of marketing, like which segment should we go after, what is the nuance within for this ICP, this persona, the marketer rarely takes that call because they don't have that kind of domain knowledge. Like they're good in marketing, but they're not good in health tech or fintech
Yeah,
or whatever
fair.
it is. And then that's where the founders and the other people in the leadership team,
So insight, it's all insight,
it's that fine nuanced understanding of a domain
which your entire business is dependent on.
exactly that business understanding has sort of been taken out of marketing, and marketing is like, okay, now it's all set, now you go and bring it to life.
You are an ops team.
Kind of an op. You're
Yeah,
bringing it to life team, not somebody who's actually. It's like a crew. You hire a crew for the
To do the job, yeah.
You guys are the ones thinking. But the crew you hire to
Does the job right.
does the job. So that can be replaceable. So that's how.
Quick view on where do you think salaries in marketing in the next 3 years going to be? I think few factors to consider is AI. Like I'm in-house building a lot of flows that can replace a lot of jobs that I would have hired for 2 years ago. I think that's possible. I've proven it to myself in marketing. So marketing use cases can be automated by AI. Second is the pressure on profitability. The IPO market is not reacting that well. Considering these two factors, where do you think salaries are going in the next 3 years? Hikes will still not be there, or the opportunities would go down. That's bad for your business. But
the hikes will definitely happen. I don't see them going away, provided you talk or deliver or showcase the impact. What will change is inflated numbers would go away for sure. There would be correction, or you could say a bit of an evolution or rationalization. The whole aspect of your output would get aligned more with long-term view of the business. So all these short-term quick fixes, would kind of move away. So let's say, as a demand gen marketer, if you're being, kind of head you're being hired, pipeline numbers would not be okay, let's do it next 6 months, number only. What you would be measured would be, when you are able to talk about the next year, 15 months or so. So that long term view would come as a part of your measurement of success, not like, let's just do 6 months fix. We'll see after 6 months, what to be done. So that's the way I'm seeing things are changing when founders or, the hiring managers are talking with the prospect or, the relevant talent. And third, I think, see, irrespective now or 3 months, AI, otherwise, I think your competencies and behavior, right behavioral mindset would always be compensated in the right way. So we need to kind of keep building on it.
salaries and roles in 3 years in marketing, you can give us a consumer brand perspective.
Like Devesh said, I think as long as you're able to justify what you bring to the table, you still get your hikes. Realistic, unrealistic doesn't matter. If you're able to justify your value and the impact that you bring to the table, you'll still get your hikes. But if you can't do that, then
Like I can confidently tell you, I'll still place a 1.25 CR marketing head 3 years down the line.
But then 1.25 CR also becomes as good as 90 lakhs today, no?
that's
Okay, 1.5 CR.
about inflation now.
1.5. Inflation adjusted, I'm saying 1.25.
The specialists who are really good, like the performance marketers, let's say people who are able to, or the SEO experts, people who are able to bring your ICP to your website and to your catchment areas, their value will always continue to rise.
There used to be a marketing analyst who would just fetch data from metadata and sit on Mixpanel and all. And these in product management, some APMs used to do all of that. I think that's not going to be there, because I've seen teams with 4 APMs who just are there to track Pendo and Mixpanel and all these sort of tools. You don't need them anymore. So I do think the roles beneath are going to go, but I also think the roles that are high stakes, they will still be there, because some sort of human input you need. Maybe your work hours will go down in the sense, you're active doing, pushing team or pushing or doing the grind will go down. I think which is a good thing.
Because the data will tell you most of the story, right? Like if you have your data in place, you can sit in on a marketing meeting and figure out whether you're directionally correct or not, and then you can get the specialist to do.
For the job.
If I can say, you would actually play that function role, what you are hired for, rather than
Yes.
doing the heavy lifting administrative. So, like if I look at from a talent acquisition, right, with an AI bit, you can play actually the role of, what a real talent acquisition person is supposed to play compared to,
What is the role? Build relationships on both sides
yes,
instead of
it-
updating CRM.
yes, and build more in terms of network, leverage that to guide people in terms of, how they can map it up, structures around people, process, rather than, spending too much time on sourcing or, kind of doing that heavy lifting of putting that data into, HRMS and all of that aspect. Sometimes, I mean, especially like what you were mentioning, I mean, that's when people spend up most of the time, right? And leaving very little to actually spend on what they're supposed to do.
I also think the middle layer is going to get cut because the seniors have to execute. There's no excuse, and in fact now they're more accountable for their prompts because now the prompts are in writing. I can tell a team member कि वो कर दे, and if he fucks up, then it's on him. But now my prompts are getting recorded, so it's me who fucked up. And I think middle layer who used to just be responsible to get it done, I think that will reduce because you can directly get done with lesser people, or the middle layer directly can execute.
The middle layer can directly execute. Yeah, that I think you'll still need the middle layer
Because that's experience.
leadership because of some experience and some amount of ownership which the lower levels won't have.
But there are multiple middle layers, right? The layers will reduce, I would say.
Fair.
Yeah, the number of layers. I think
Cool.
that's a wrap.
Yeah, that's
Awesome.
a wrap.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
guys.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
Lovely.
Thank you.